him being at that point as a political figure will make him a role model for a lot of men. And that's dangerous for a lot of men, especially people that don't really understand how to differentiate between who you once was and who you are now. Here are just a few questions that I would pose to you guys as the viewers. Do you believe someone with a criminal past can truly reform enough to lead a country? That's question one. Question number two, is inside knowledge of gangs an advantage or a danger in politics? Wanting to get rid of crime in South Africa, wanting to bring down the crime rate and homicide rate in South Africa. I can back that up. Weirdly so. I can, only because he has that experience. Can I trust him? I don't think I can. Disclaimer, this podcast is all about real conversations. Raw, authentic, and unscripted. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in raw conversations are solely those of the host and the guests. If you're struggling, please reach out to someone qualified. And remember, take what helps, leave what doesn't. Welcome to the circle. Let's keep it raw, real, and respectful. Welcome to Raw Conversations with Herald Kavuala. Minister Gayton McKenzie says only he can take on drug lords and mafias because he himself was once a gang boss. And now he has turned political. He has turned into a politician. He has his own party now, the PA, the Patriotic Alliance. He now has his own political party. And I'm not here to push any political agendas. I'm not touching on any politics on my podcast. This is just, I found an aspect in this whole situation that I found pretty interesting, and I just want to share with you guys as well. So, once gang leader turned into politician. Right? Before we get into this whole conversation, let's look at some facts, regarding South Africa. So, according to the Financial Times, South Africa recorded nearly 27,000 murders in the last year, putting the national homicide rate at around 45 per 100,000 people, amongst the highest globally. The majority of victims are black or colored men from low-income neighborhoods. Despite pledges from President Ramaphosa to halve violent crimes, homicide rates have unfortunately continued to climb, and the conviction rate for serious crimes remains only about 10%, signaling deep flaws in informant and judicial follow-through. Now, this is pretty, I don't say standard because it's sad, but that's the reality of South Africa, that crime in South Africa is pretty big. That's something we cannot deny. We do need someone to actually get a grasp of it. I mean, when President Ramaphosa went to the White House to speak with Donald Trump, one of the issues there was how they wanted America to help South Africa deal with crimes. I believe Starlink was one of the ideas that Ramaphosa had, would help with dealing with the crime in South Africa. That's how the genocide came about, but we all know there's no white genocide, it's just black and black crime. And even here, the fact clearly states here that most of the crime that happens here, the majority of the victims are black or colored men from low-income neighborhoods. Black or colored men. It's there. It's mainly black people that are actually killing each other. But I'm not here to talk about black on black crime. That's my last episode I shot. You guys can actually click up here. I'm going to put up a link up here to the video. You guys can actually watch my take on black crime. But crime in South Africa is a very, very serious issue. We cannot deny that. President Ramaphosa himself has admitted to that. Okay, we have an issue of crime in South Africa, and it will be nice to actually have someone who can actually get control over this. We've had people, I just forgot their names, who are trying to deal with the crime in South Africa, but now Gayton McKenzie says, he's the only person who's best fit for that role because of his experience. And this is where my concern or my interest in him comes in. because now he also has his own political party, the PA, which he wants to push, and pretty soon we're having our own national election in South Africa, and I'm pretty sure he's not want his party to be voted for. And yeah, that's where my intrigue comes in. Having a person who has this experience as a gang leader, and I'm going to mention some facts that he himself said according to this, is it Times Live interview with him in 2024. He said it himself, and that's where my intrigue is, that do we want someone like that to actually be president of a country, or should he just remain focused on crime, which is what I think he should do? Okay, but let me not get ahead of myself. Let's just look at some of the things he's done as coming up. A person like him turns into being a role model. All right. His whole approach to wanting to deal with crime. Personally, I have friends who don't believe his approach to deal with crime in the manner in which he wants to go with it because of his past, And I found that pretty interesting as well, because you know what? Let me give you guys the facts. Let me give you guys what he said, and then we can talk from there, because then you can understand what I'm saying much more clearer. So, according to the Times Live interview in 2024, these are some of the things that he said he had done, some of the things that he had gone through. Right? At the age of 10, he had the desires to want to kill someone because of the lifestyle he lived at that time, being in a gang and all. Now, he's from the Cape Town flats, and that's one of the areas that's very high in gang violation and in gang groups and stuff. So he was part of that gang. At the age of 16, he was involved in his first bank robbery. He served a 17-year sentence at the Grootfontein prison in Bloemfontein for armed robbery, of which at that time he was the gang leader of the 26 gang. Now, 26 gang is a very big gang in South Africa. I'm pretty much sure 90% of South Africans would know who's the 26 gang. He shot someone 10 times because that person stole his jacket. Now, that person did not die, but the mere fact that he's capable of shooting someone 10 times over a jacket, that for me does call a bit of concern in terms of his political move. When it comes to him wanting to get rid of crime in South Africa, wanting to, bring down the crime rate and homicide rate in South Africa, I can back that up. Weirdly so. I can, only because he has that experience. Can I trust him? I don't think I can. Because again, his experience. When you put someone like him in power, and by power I mean you put someone like him in a presidential position, he ends up becoming a bully, like someone like Donald Trump. Ever since Donald Trump got into power, he's just been attacking every country globally with tariffs and sanctions and new laws and bans and all that stuff. Trump is just going all out and using his power he's using his power as president to do what he wants to do. And someone like Gayton McKenzie, if he too becomes a president of a country, we have no control over the things that he does. Yes, obviously there is parliament to limit his actions. There is Congress, and there's many other stuff that are there that can limit his actions. But at the same time, he can still get away with a lot of things. McKenzie should remain focused on eliminating drug operations in South Africa because he seems to be passionate about that. But I don't think he should do it from a political position of leadership. That's pretty much where I stand with regards to Gayton McKenzie. Obviously, there's a lot more on him that we can go further into. But my primary focus here is just on him and his political venture that is now venturing into. At the current moment, he's the Minister of Arts, Agriculture, Arts and Culture, I believe. Yeah, he's the Minister of Arts and Culture at this current moment, which is interesting. But again, that's another topic on its own. how he became the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture South Africa. It's also interesting, but now he wants to make this shift into having to deal with the gangs, drugs, and homicide in South Africa. So here are just a few questions that I would pose to you guys as my viewers, as the viewers. Do you believe someone with a criminal past can truly reform enough to lead a country? That's question one. Question number two, is inside knowledge of gangs an advantage or a danger in politics? These are the questions that I had to ask myself. And we'll look at examples of some presidents that have led the country with criminal records. They would lead the country the same way they would lead a criminal organization. Trump right now is leading the country the same way he runs his businesses. He's running the country like he's running a business. A gang leader or gang lord would run the country like he ran his gang organization, right? So do we want to have someone like that in power? Personally, no. I don't want anyone of the sort. I want a politician to run for presidency, not someone who wants a gang. Gayton McKenzie should remain focused on just dealing with the homicide because he has that experience. He knows how the gang people think. He knows how their mind works. He knows where they would hide the stuff. He knows at what time they would ship the drugs. He knows that much. He knows. But can he run the country? Can he be a political figure? I doubt it. Him being at that point as a political figure will make him a role model for a lot of men. And that's dangerous for a lot of men, especially people that don't really understand how to differentiate between who you once was and who you are now. It's possible people can change, but can you make the difference? A lot of us will follow people, role models, and do everything that they did. We have a typical examples with celebrities and stuff. I know if Justin Bieber had a reckless upbringing in his career. There's stuff people are going to follow. He's smoking, they're going to smoke. He's driving recklessly, they're going to drive recklessly. Chris Brown is a ladies' man. They're going to be ladies' man. We want men who are stable in life. We want men who are settled in life. We want men who are good role models to other men. This is tricky because Gayton McKenzie has that ability to actually help men who were once in the gang. And I feel like he should remain there. In his interview again, the Times interview, he himself says that as he was in jail, this is when he actually transformed or reformed, or when he believes transformed. As he was in jail, someone was raped, I think about 18 times. And then he said that as a gang, you don't want to get involved in other people's doings, right? So he didn't want to get involved in that. But once obviously the rape was done, he went to tell the guy, says, you need to go report to the police. And then he took the person there. And then it's from then that he started changing his ways in life, okay, according to him. So that does tell me that he actually can help a lot of people who are lost in life, give direction to certain people. And I think he should just stay in that lane. That's just my 2 cents. I think he should stay in that lane, in the lane of helping people change their ways from gang violence to just being proper businessmen and proper leaders in the community and proper, good people in the society. That's what he should do. I don't think he should be a politician. I don't think he should have a political party. I don't think he should have any aspirations to run for president. But those are my thoughts. All right. So now I'll leave you guys with these 2 questions again. Do you believe someone with a criminal past can truly reform enough to lead a country? And number 2, is inside knowledge of gangs an advantage or a danger in politics? And you gotta look at it both ways. Because once he's in power, You can't tell him anything. He can steal money from the country and you wouldn't know. Or he can actually help the country, but still wouldn't know. Very tricky situation to be in. Very tricky situation, especially for us who has to vote for him with the national elections. So yeah, I'm not here to tell you to vote for him or not to vote for him. I'm just here to share the facts that are out there. I'm not here to discredit him. I'm not here to attack his character. I don't want any lawsuit like McChicot. I don't want any of that stuff. But I'm just here to state the facts as they are. South Africa has a problem with crime. We cannot deny that. We do need someone to help with keeping it under control. McKenzie does have the skill sets to do that. Minister Gayton McKenzie does have the skill set to do that based on his past history. Should he run for president? Or should he pursue his political aspirations? That much I don't know. That much I'm hesitant on. That much I feel we will need to think hard about it. And remember, guys, there's something that's been said 1,000 times, but I'll say it again. The future is in your hands. Literally, it's in your hands. ANC is in power right now because we decided to vote for ANC. Had we as people decided to vote for DA will be in power. But I'm not here again to talk about politics. The power is in your hands. The future is in your hands. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for getting this far. If you've gotten this far, I really appreciate you, man. This is a real conversation with me, Herald Kavuala. If you liked what you heard, please do subscribe, do share, do comment. I respond to every comment. And please do like as well. But thank you so much for tuning in. Stay strong, stay raw, and I'll see you on the next one.